I don't think there's anything more straight for a dude on this planet than wanting to sleep with Henry Cavill. I think it's generally speaking a belief held amongst most straight guys that sleeping with Henry Cavill might be the straightest thing you could possibly do. In fact, any guy that says he doesn't want to sleep with Henry Cavill is clearly gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that,
Not
but
that there's anything wrong with that.
We're not gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, of course not.
I mean, it's fine if that's who you are.
Absolutely.
I mean, I have many gay friends.
My father's gay.
but if someone out there was like, no, I don't want to sleep with Henry, you're gay. All right, so that's kind of the mythos I feel like of Henry Cavill. This dude is built like a Greek god. He's a great actor. He's in a lot of movies where unfortunately he is a lot better than the movie he's in most cases. And sadly, there just seems to be the universe. This is a terrible simulation where for some reason we haven't gotten him to continue playing Superman with a better director, to be James Bond when he clearly just, you look at him, you're like, that's James Bond. That guy, put him in a tux, that's James Bond. He can talk himself into any woman's nether region. He can do kill any man. Like, that's the guy. And it just sucks that, like, as great as a career as he has had, he is a very accomplished actor. It just sucks that there's so many missed opportunities, and I feel like it's just not fair. I don't understand why or like with The Witcher. I mean, you watched The Witcher. Like, that was a very promising franchise, being like, the game's awesome, he's awesome, this is going to be awesome. He's very passionate about that game, and that didn't work.
Just bad things happen to nice people is like the mantra for him, I guess, just because it makes no sense why he hasn't had more of a home run career. He's obviously done very well for himself, so I'm sure his bank account is nice and full with multiple Superman appearances and The Witcher and various roles, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. But it is strange that he just hasn't had that one. He hasn't had one like truly successful role. I don't mean financially, more so just where it's like, oh yeah, that's the role that defines Henry Cavill. It's like he was Superman in mediocre movies or bad movies. And he was, I mean, I guess honestly, pound for pound, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. is probably his best movie. We haven't seen his latest film, right? We haven't seen the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, right?
Sounds right. Something along those lines.
The Ungentlemanly Ministry of Warfare. I feel like you could just mix up that name so many different ways. But he's so charismatic. The Witcher was like the biggest missed layup of a role for him, where he is killing it. He is doing a spot on take on Geralt, and the show just couldn't be more boring if it tried. In a show where he is a monster killer in a fantasy world, they made it so boring, followed the other characters way too much, and it just is really unfortunate. And then they ended up like pushing him out of the show because he wanted to stick to the source material too much, which I feel like you and I, that's like how we would be in that situation. Be like, but no, right here in the book it says. And it's just like, well, so it's unfortunate that he hasn't. I'm hope that he hasn't gotten that freedom of a character yet, like that true freedom and then not only where he gets to do a good role, but then the actual execution works out.
It's so frustrating because with Daniel Craig walking away from James Bond after being James Bond for so long, to me, I was just like, it's Henry Cavill. Like, it's Henry Cavill. That's the guy. He has the suave look. He has the physicality. And the movie you forgot about that he is amazing in, even though I would agree it's not his defining role, would be Mission Impossible Fallout.
Oh God, yes. Pox upon me for forgetting that one, because he is great in that. He is great in that.
A brutish American, I think he works for the CIA or what have you, to tag along with Tom Cruise. He has maybe the second greatest moment in a Mission Impossible movie, next to the dangle over the computer, is him with the gun pump. I mean, that is visually so arousing. And what's amazing about that is that, again, as a straight man, a very straight
Yes.
arousal. But
That's very straight. Very,
very
very
straight. But when he does the gun pump with his arms, and originally, like, he was just trying to like warm his arms up and warm the tendons up, and so he did that in a take, and immediately he was like, "Oh, that's like lame. Like, why did I do that?" So then he did another take, and the director was like, "Hey, why didn't you do that arm thing?" And he's like, "What?" He's like, "You wanted me to do that?" And so like that was just a natural happening when he was doing that, which makes it even cooler that he was just unconscious. He's like Michael Jordan hitting like a fourth shot in a row, like. It's like a heat check almost to how awesome he can be that he can do something like that and still look awesome.
He just literally walks into screen. It's just kiss the baby, smack the girl on the butt as he walks into the shot. Boom, boom, right into character. Just can't miss. Just can't miss. Helps a little old lady across the street. Like he just oozes cool so hard he can't even help it. Consensually smack a girl on the butt, of course.
Consensually.
Of course.
She literally tells him, "Please smack my ass." And he was like, "Of course, it'd be rude if I didn't." Wham! It's things like that. That's like that. He has it factor. He has major Hollywood leading man it factor. Now, I haven't seen him in a role that would require him to really push his acting chops. I don't know what he's capable of. Like, I don't know, where you have a movie. I mean, there's plenty of examples, but like a movie like Prisoners that shows just how amazing Hugh Jackman is as an actor. He's not just Wolverine. He has this insane range. I haven't seen him in a movie like that. I don't know if maybe Henry Cavill's a lot like Tom Cruise, where it's like I'm more interested in doing movies that I would want to watch and like these fun action movies. I don't know necessarily where his mind's at with that. I don't know anything about Warhammer. I know that Henry Cavill is a dedicated PC gamer, but Warhammer is also a tabletop game where you like get miniatures and you paint them and you set up battlefields.
I think he mostly plays the PC version. That's from what I remember him talking about, though. I don't think he plays and colors the miniatures.
Recently, not to take a side path over into politics, but this is where it's going to be interesting because he had such a divide with the showrunner of The Witcher, where, yes, like you said, he wanted to stick to the source material. She wanted to do her own thing. And they just were not at all. In fact, there was like a complaint, an anonymous complaint about the fact that Henry Cavill was intolerable on set because of how much he wanted it to be like the source material. And so recently there's been a story out there, and I don't know how much Warhammer people care about this. Apparently lore is a big thing, and I apologize if I'm messing this up. This is just going off of memory from recent days. But the Space Marines are originally like the best of them, and they're pulled from this royal family. They're all the sons of this royal family, and they become like this genetically altered super soldier. And apparently recently, the Warhammer people that run Warhammer, they said it's their sons and daughters, and it's always been like that. People in the community were like, "Well, no, it's always been their sons," and the Warhammer owner people were just like, no, it's always been like that. And people were just like, "You're gaslighting us. Why not just say you're changing it and retconning it, but you're trying to tell us that?" And it's like there's plenty of examples of that. So anyway, my point being, the Henry Cavill type dude that's obsessed with Warhammer and obsessed with the games and the lore, I am curious of like if this at all plays into how he sees the franchise, or whether or not this goes through, because of his experience with The Witcher. He might be like, listen, if I don't have creative control to a certain extent, if I don't get like guarantees on what I can put forth as a product, then I'm not going to be part of it. So I don't know where that's going to go, but I hope for his sake that this can be his I'm going to mess this up. This is so stupid.
Magnum opus?
Magnum opus. Yeah, that.
Magnum opus.
Magnum opus.
Yeah, I had heard some of those things about recent Warhammer changes, and yeah, I don't know or care really that much about it, but 100% that was my thought, was this show is going to be done by Amazon. Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, I think is a pretty good example of how sincere Amazon is to source material. So I don't really, and I don't mean that in a good way, I would imagine that, yeah, if he was going to go forward with this, it would require quite a bit of assurances. I wouldn't trust Amazon as far as I can throw them.
There is the latest Fallout show that's promising.
Oh yeah.
I've watched the first 3 episodes. It's promising, and everyone that has watched it to completion says it's great, and it to me, what I've seen is that it does very much vibe with the Fallout games. It feels like it's very much part of that world. So I think there's hope there. The Boys is their shining star that they've nailed. Similar with or dissimilar, Avatar: The Last Airbender. That's an example where the showrunners bounce, or the original creators bounced and said, "This is not our vision. We're not a part of this." If Henry Cavill does that, I think we're gonna know kind of what the status of Warhammer is gonna be.
It's just weird that he doesn't get more projects. It's so strange. Like he got probably a boatload of money for that weird Argyle movie that came out, where he's in it for I think like 5 minutes, like barely at all. But he's like all over the poster, and he's in the trailer, and it's just like, oh yeah, this movie with Henry Cavill. And then you actually, if you went and watched it, which I didn't, but I found out after that, yeah, he's like not in the movie at all. His filmography is so thin. Superman, Man from U.N.C.L.E., Mission Impossible, Argyle, and then the latest Guy Ritchie movie. A couple other random stuff here and there. What did we were talking about earlier? Oh, Stardust, the worst movie ever made. The worst movie ever made, Stardust. Henry Cavill, I guess, is in the background, or some short role somewhere. So random, but that just goes to show you, like, it just hasn't been in much. He has such a high ceiling. He's dedicated enough that even if he doesn't have the inherent acting chops and skills to have a great range, I think he would never be bad. I think that he might be limited, but I can't imagine a world where Henry Cavill is bad in anything. Geralt's obviously a very like super particular type of character in how he speaks and his mannerisms and how he says fuck. But I did a terrible impression just then, but you get the idea. We all would want to see him in more things. That's just really all it comes down to. Henry, I need you to work more. If you're watching this video, please work a little bit more.
Put down the mouse and the keypad.
Go to work. James Bond makes so much sense. There's no way they would do it.
No, I mean, it's Aaron Taylor Johnson is supposed to be James Bond.
God. What blackmail? Did we talk about this on the show before? Like certain people having blackmail? Aaron Taylor Johnson getting these roles makes no fucking sense.
I mean, again, I think he's fine. I don't know. Again, like I don't know the range he possesses. I think he'll probably be fine. And it'll be like, people freaked out when Daniel Craig was cast as James Bond, being like, he's blonde, he can't be James Bond, and then he was fine. So it's probably like that. But you just, again, the excuse being that he's too old because he's in his early 40s. I just think that's such a lame excuse. And
people were talking about Idris Elba, and that dude's like 60.
Yeah, Idris Elba's like 60 and also built like a brick shithouse like Henry Cavill is, and like both those dudes they look a lot more James Bondy than Aaron Taylor Johnson does. But anyway,
Aaron Taylor is like fuckboy James Bond.
He's much more of a Q than he is a James Bond.
Yeah, the quirky Q.
There's a humanity that Henry Cavill has when he plays Superman that, to me, is what separates him from being put amongst the Rock, where the Rock can play like a superhero, but he's the Rock, and he is playing a superhero. Never does the Rock play someone there's like a humanity or a underlying sense of like a real person. But when Henry Cavill played Superman, even though the fact that it's so disappointing that Zack Snyder ruined those movies, just being himself. But Henry Cavill is like, there's a sadness, there's a happiness, he has the different emotions while maintaining the Superman aura, something that The Rock could never do. And it's unfortunate. So I think, we'll see. At some point, Marvel's going to throw him a bone, I would think. And even though that franchise is dead and gone, there is the outside chance that he somehow joins the fold and it blows our minds. And maybe that'll be the role that we remember him for.
Casting Henry Cavill as a villain, as a major villain, is really the obvious way to go. You have all these faces and baby faces that to lead your franchise. How about getting a multi-movie villain like Henry Cavill to play Doctor Doom? Seems like a no-brainer. Like, and with the good thing about that one is that you can fuck up his face. So like, he doesn't have to just sit in like, oh, I'm just going to be, you know, handsome Henry Cavill the whole time. Is like you get to really kind of force him into a different look by having, you know, all the scars and the face issues after, before he then, you know, bonds with the Beyonder and then fixes his face and all that. But
we'll see. Hopefully that magnificent frame and perfectly symmetrical face finds itself on our big screen, making lots of monies in a theater near you.
I mean, if you were going to cast, what would be your top three? Your top three. Henry Cavill is coming to the Marvel universe. You get to choose who you want to cast him as. Who's your top three?
Let's try something new. Mr. Sinister would be an interesting one.
That'd be cool.
Someone that's built like that. Doctor Doom really is that dude is perfectly built, and even if you cover up his face, that guy looks like he's going to be a problem. You look at him and you're like, that dude's a problem.
Yeah. And Namor, if you wanted to do a real Namor.
But now he's
Aztec?
Aztecian?
Mayan,
Aztec, South America, middle South America, somewhere below Texas. Namor is from somewhere below Texas. That I know.
Yeah, Henry I'm a fan cast Henry as Namor because you just get to see him just walk around in his Speedo the entire time. It's great. So that seems like a no-brainer.
Oh, let's do okay, if we're going down this route, let's just redo Watchmen and have him as Mr. Manhattan.
It's Dr. Manhattan.
Let's get back Zack Snyder, the extended cut. It's 7 hours long.
The extended, uncut,
unedited.
You have the cut and the uncut version, depending on what your preference is.
That's funny.